Okay, I'm going to get started. Good evening, everyone. I'm Candy Fredericks. I'm the state PTA, the president of New Jersey PTA. Thank you for joining us tonight. Family engagement is one of the most important works we do as PTAs. We are fortunate to have Daniel from the National Family Engagement Committee as our speaker today. I would like to thank our DEI committee and Family Engagement Committee for collaborating to bring this webinar to us today. Now I'm going to hand the program over to Vina Pai, who is our New Jersey PTA DEI chair. Vina.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to share some housekeeping points with you guys. So make sure your Zoom reflects your name. And when you go into participant, you can click on rename and change your name to reflect your name. I find myself going into a lot of Zooms with my kid's name on. So I'm just putting it out there. So please stay on mute unless you're speaking. Please use the raise hand icon and wait for your name to be called if you wish to speak at any point in time, and be respectful. Those are my housekeeping items. I'm turning it over to Rose to introduce our speaker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosa Chera, as Vina said, and I serve as the New Jersey PTA Federal Legislative Chair. I was also privileged to serve as the New Jersey PTA State President from 2016 to 2019. And I also serve on the Board of Directors of National PTA, where I'm completing my fourth and final year. Being a Board of Directors member of National PTA, and also when I was state president, I've had the opportunity to be involved in the wonderful work that our Center for Family Engagement team is responsible for. Some of their work and resources include Notes from the Backpack. Hopefully you've listened to that podcast, Transformative Family Engagement, and more recently, the National Standards for Family School Partnership. Tonight it is my honor to introduce you to a member of this great team, Daniel Ehrenpreis, who MPH is a Family and Community Engagement Manager at National PTA. He leads the Center for Family Engagement in articulating and implementing a capacity building strategy for PTA leaders who participate in training, webinars, grants, and programs. Daniel is a career community and youth organizer dedicated to establishing and bolstering multiple municipal social safety nets to ensure every need is met with an inclusive and equitable lens. Daniel received his MPH from Johns Hopkins University, focusing on child, adolescent, and community health. He received his Bachelor of Science from Boston University and is a proud graduate of New York Public Schools. So besides having a very impressive resume, Daniel is a true blessing to the National PTA family. I met Daniel this past October in DC at the launch of our updated standards, and I was blown away by his knowledge and passion for family engagement. And I was really blown away when he told me he had been working for National PTA for just 6 months at the time. So when the New Jersey PTA DEI Committee and the New Jersey PTA Family Engagement Committee shared their vision on what kind of information they wanted to share with all of you, our members, we knew just who to call on to get help to start this critical conversation. So tonight, we hope that you walk away with tips on how we can welcome more families to our school community, how we can communicate better, how we can support and speak up and advocate for all children, and how to include our entire committee in this important work. So Daniel, thank you for your support and in planning this session, and we are excited to have you join us tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rose. Wow, what a warm welcome. This was so great. Candy, Vina, Rose, thank you all for having me tonight. Thank all of you for taking time out of your evenings for being here to have a wonderful conversation around family engagement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I'll get this started. Let's go ahead and present. All right, there we go. Everyone can see that, right? Perfect. Okay, So, hello everyone. As Rose said, my name is Daniel Aaron Price. I'm with National PTA's Center for Family Engagement. And tonight, what I'm going to be talking with you is about raising the bar for family engagement. All of us that are on this call work in some atmosphere of family engagement. Partnering with schools, partnering with families, and partnering with your community is a really big aspect of being a PTA leader. So today, I want to talk a bit about some gold standard practices that you can implement today, tomorrow, into your practices as PTA leaders so that you can enhance those relationships that you have. One caveat that I want to give before I dive into this presentation is I want this to be as engaging of an hour as we can make it. I can go on for a full hour talking through all of the content within these slides, but that's not helpful. What's most helpful is engaging with each other in conversation about what you have been doing with practices of your own family engagement methods. So I want all of you to please use your voice. Please use that raise your hand function. I love being interrupted in the middle of a slide to answer somebody's question. And if I don't get to all the material at the end of the day, at least we were able to converse in really progressive dialogue with one another about our family engagement practices. So please, I encourage you to be a part of the conversation today. We will be doing some breakout sessions and keeping it as engaging and light as possible, okay? All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? We always start with this with National PTA. I bet many of you that have been on webinars with New Jersey PTA have probably seen this before, but we always start with our mission, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But our mission at National PTA is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. The reason why we start every presentation with this mission is because no matter what content that we're talking about, this is what matters. So if you ever see yourself going through a spiral of details involving your PTA, involving reasons why you are doing what you are doing, always go back to this mission statement and think, is the process, is the details that I'm working on right now related back to this mission? And if it's not, find a way to correlate it, because this is exactly why we are all here today, and we're trying to set up students for success. A couple things I want to note in the mission statement, which brings my public health professional heart soaring, is a few words: every child and all children. And I focus on that because I really think about equity as a huge lens. I think about reaching out to all families, to all children. Everyone is included in this conversation. It's not just your child. It's not just your neighbor's child. It's every child that's within your community. So we should be thinking about that when we're doing our work. Secondly, I want to note that it says families and communities. Sometimes we focus very heavily on families because that's the easiest thing that we can outreach to when we're working within the sphere of school, when we're in the sphere of students learning, but communities play a large importance in this as well. So those are a few things that I just wanted to point out that makes me excited to be with National PTA and this mission in particular. Before we dive into the national standards for family school partnerships, we have to first do a little bit of level setting and figuring out one big definition behind all of this. And that is, what is family engagement? So there are many different definitions of what family engagement looks like. And I have a few specific definitions that I want to point out that's very important when we're doing this work. But I want to hear from all of you. What do you think is family engagement? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up a poll everywhere. If you haven't done poll everywhere before, it's very simple. So if you're on a web browser, all you're going to do is go to pollev.com/DanielAaronPrice990, and then you'll see this pop up. Or if you're on your phone, text Daniel Aaron Price 990 to 22333. Now, once you join on, I want all of you to write one word. In one word, what is family engagement? And I'll give everybody just a few minutes. If you're having difficulty getting onto the poll everywhere, please let me know in the chat. I'm happy to help get you there. But we're going to create a word cloud together. I want to see what people think. So what is family engagement? Think about that one word that gets you there. I can even put this in the chat. What's the link? So the link is pollev.com/Daniel Aaron Price 990. And I just put that in the chat. So feel free to copy and paste that in your web browser. No responses yet. It's okay if you're still figuring it out. That's fine. I'll give it one more minute. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just go right to the chat. We'll do it old school. Anybody having difficulty getting on? It says waiting to begin. Okay, good to know. Let's refresh this. How about now? Try that one. Oh, actually, if I press activate, there we go. You should be able to enter. Thank you, Claudine. Okay, got our first word. There we go. Communication, include, very good. Anyone else? Community, great. Participation, inclusive, support, team, connection, belonging, everyone. Okay. Very nice. We're seeing participation be a big one, community being a big one. I'll give it just a few more minutes. We'll do this little dizzying iteration in just a sec. Engagement, I see. Freedom, okay. Ownership, great. Involvement, belonging, great. Okay, these are perfect. See, this is exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for participation and community to be a really big aspect of that. I talked about inclusion being a really big part of this and making sure that everyone is included within this conversation, being engaged within a school community and engaged with what you are doing as a PTA as well. And then once you have people that are engaged, you're able to create those partnerships and foster that type of partnership. Ownership is getting bigger as well. And Ruth, thanks for your contribution. Commonality as well is a really big aspect of that. That will help build that type of rapport and relationship. Thank you all for doing that. So I'm just going to deactivate this. I appreciate that. I'll go right back to the slides that we have over here. Perfect. Okay. So all of that is very true. All the participation, the involvement, the inclusion is what we're looking for when we're talking about family engagement. We want to make sure that everybody is a part of this equation and really working collaboratively to build relationships with one another. Something I want to note that is a common misperception of family engagement is it's not a one and done event. Some people think that, oh, I put on one family engagement event per year. It's not just an event. This is really kind of a lifestyle. It's a way that you should be going about day to day, interacting with families. That's considered family engagement. Getting families a part of your school system, getting them to know who the people are within the school system. That's family engagement. Bringing people to your meetings, explaining the processes of your school, that's family engagement. Touch points that we have with our families, with our communities are considered family engagement. It's never just a one and done opportunity. It's prolonged throughout. Even after school, even once school is out of session, that's still considered family engagement when you're able to speak with other individuals. Continue building that rapport during your time as a PTA leader. So this brings us to the national standards for family school partnerships. So just by a show of hands, if you have your face and video on right now, or you can use one of the emojis at the bottom, who's heard of the national standards for family school partnerships? Feel free to put up an emoji. Okay, Lynette raised hand. Got some thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay, so we have a few people, but some of this might be a little bit new to you, and that's okay. I always love seeing some new faces that don't really know too much about the standards. So the national standards for family school partnerships has been around since the late 1990s. It is a gold standard framework that is evidence-informed, research-based, surrounding principles of good standard practices for family school partnerships and fostering those partnerships and relationships so we can build upon family engagement within our PTAs and within our schools and communities. So there are 6 tenets for the national standards for family school partnerships. They are welcome all families, communicate effectively, support student success, speak up for every child, share power, and collaborate with community. Each one of these 6 standards has goals that are a part of them. All of this is located on our website as well. So if you ever go to pta.org/standards, you'll find all the information related to each of these 6 standards. Today, we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into standard 5, share power, but I highly recommend that you go to the website and do a little bit more research and digging into what the other standards look like as well. Something to note is that the standards were developed in the late 90s. They were updated once in 2008, and most recently they've been updated in 2022. The update in 2022 added 3 new features to the standards. One is that we have a lot of evidence base around family engagement and gold standard practices of family engagement in modern time. So we were able to incorporate a lot of modern research into the standards itself. The second thing that we updated is we specifically focused on an equity lens within each 6 of these tenets. So when it comes to welcoming all families, we really ensured to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusive principles within the language that we use internal to the standards. And then 3 is we wanted to be more specific about the roles that everybody plays. So we want PTA leaders, school officials, administrators, educators, parents, families, everyone plays a role within family school partnerships and family engagement. And we wanted to make it clear what that role looked like depending on the person that's viewing the standards. Now, I mentioned this before, but these 6 tenets reflects the best practices and the voices of over 600 families, educators, and youth. National PTA, as a part of our update in 2022, conducted a large parent research study, and this was nationally representative. So we incorporated geography, we incorporated different levels of education. So that's elementary, middle school, high school perspective, but we talked with and hosted 600 different touch points with families, whether they were listening sessions or surveys. And we tried to figure out what were families feeling and how did this relate back to the national standards and creating better rapport between school systems and families. So we've incorporated a lot of that research into the standards. If you want to see the full research report, that's also on our website, pta.org/standards. So you can feel free to go there and do a deeper dive into the research behind the standards itself. Another thing to note is these 6 tenets have not changed since 1998. After all of the data and the research and us trying to iterate what the standards look like internally and conducting all of these listening sessions, we've recognized that these 6 standards still show true to today's society. So welcoming all families is still very relevant. Sharing power is still very relevant to today. And these 6 standards aren't just utilized by PTAs across the nation, but they're used by states, they're used by districts, they've been adopted by various departments of education on the state level. Communities utilize them, various organizations and education organizations use them too. So we really want you to know that this is an incredible framework for your PTA. A lot of people say that the standards are kind of the bread and butter of our organization. This is really the core and how we relate our mission back to the work that we do daily in terms of family engagement. So I highly recommend that you really research these 6 standards and think about your own practices when it comes to the standards as well. So go through the website, take a look at some of the tools and the resources we have located there, and then have conversations with your boards, have conversations with your principals, your superintendents, and start discussing why these 6 standards are important, and then also how you can raise the bar for your practices within family engagement using some of the tools we have on our website. And I'll describe some of those tools a little bit later too. I even have a website walkthrough for you that we'll go through today too. So what I want to do is I've talked enough about this. I've given you the framework for what the standards are, but I want to hear from all of you about what your practices look like when it comes to family school partnerships. So we're going to do a little bit of a reflection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up some breakout rooms, and this is where all of you will start to discuss. I want you to reflect honestly about your practices of family engagement. And I have a question on the next slide that will start your discussion. I'm going to allocate, what time do we have? It's 7:22. So I'm going to allocate about 7 minutes in our breakout group, and then we'll be sharing out together in the large group about what you discussed, okay? So everybody, please make sure to have good conversations. I will be calling on you. The question at hand is, what are your PTA's strengths and weaknesses when it comes to family school partnerships? And again, reflect honestly, have some good dialogue with some of your colleagues here on the call today. I will stop sharing my screen so we can enter those breakout rooms. Okay, so I'm going to create the breakout rooms and answer that question and talk with each other about what your strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to family school partnerships. So feel free to enter your breakout rooms. was okay if you hit the correct button. I think you can go right back in. Claudine, let me see. Claudine, let me know if that fixed it for you. Oh, they're in. That's good. There we go.
Is everyone able to join the breakout rooms? I think I see some people who are.
They should. Is anybody having any difficulty getting in? I see a few people that are still on.
Yeah.
Just broadcasting a message to everyone. There we go. Some people might also be on their phones or unable to join the breakout session, so that's okay. All right, I see conversation going in all the rooms. That's good.
It's really good to, I've never hosted a breakout room, so this is my first hand view of
You get the
people are
perspective of it.
talking. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, there's a lot of engagement.
That's great. Exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. All right, we'll take this all the way until 7:29.
Hi, I'm sorry. My phone just died, so I get off from the chat and I just came in. I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. Bernice, I can put you in room 2. So I'm going to do that now, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Awesome. Yeah, Vina, so what you could do is you can always move people to different rooms as well and then close all the rooms. The best part is you could broadcast messages to everybody and that'll appear like right at the top of each of the breakout rooms.
My
So
mind is being blown right now with the possibilities of this.
Yeah,
I've never hosted it, so it's this is cool. This is like magic.
3 more minutes. Broadcast. There we go.
It's cool to see people talking, right?
I've never seen, I think this was a part of a recent update. It's actually good to see so you can kind of monitor. And if somebody's not talking, then you can kind of just jump in.
I think that's a good turnout.
Oh, no, this is great.
All things considering, yeah.
Oh, most definitely. And anybody that's in this main room, if you also want to discuss the question, feel free. But I understand that some people's circumstances don't allow them to turn on their mics. So that's totally okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I've joined a call when I'm driving my kids around, there's no way I could join a breakout room or speak or anything of that sort. So
Absolutely. It varies.
it's most evenings are like that. So we're all Uber drivers.
Let's see. Okay.
They have 1 more minute.
1 more minute. Absolutely.
No, but when does a 7-minute?
Oh, 1 more minute.
So you
Yeah.
can you can broadcast that, right?
Yeah,
Or
just
does
do
it
that.
show?
I don't think it
Okay.
shows for us,
Oh,
but it
yeah.
shows on them.
It did show for me.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't think it shows for you because you're broadcasting,
I
but it shows for
broadcast it.
everybody else. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I like it how it buzzes everybody back into the main room and when it's time
Afterward.
up. It's like science fiction.
Right.
The first time I was on a breakout room, it just pulled me back into the main room. I was like, wow, this is like time travel.
Okay, I'm going to close all the rooms. But we got some good conversation. Nobody wants to leave.
I'm glad.
This is great.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Everything's closing out in just a minute. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Awesome. Okay. I think we're all back in the main room. Thank you all for participating in some good conversations. I saw all the mics running, and it seems like everybody was talking about something. Hopefully it was family engagement and some strengthening family school partnerships. So we have 5 rooms that were open, and I just want to see, would anybody like to share? If you don't mind using the raise your hand function, and just to go over that again, if you click on the bottom bar and click on participants, the raise your hand function should show up once you click participants on your right hand side. So would anyone like to share? And I'm not above calling on people too, so. Bernice, you can go ahead and share.
Hi, my name is Berenice. I'm from the New Jersey Weehawken School District, and I'm vice president in the PTA for 2 years now, and this is my last year, sadly, because my son is moving up to another school. And my district is very diverse in terms of demographic and different cultures in one district, even though it hasn't been represented in the PTA, and it's been maybe one of the first, I am the first immigrant parent be part of the PTA. So that is creating some impact, and I'm saying in a really humble way that is impacting another parents, that they see me and how they can also reflect themselves to join the PTA. Because I think as an immigrant parent, we think that we cannot or we should not be involved in our kids' education. And sometimes many of these immigrant parents, they feel that they don't have the right to advocate, they don't have the right to ask, or the right to be empowered and request information, and so forth. The school doesn't know that there are many parents that they don't speak in English, or they don't understand that we don't understand the US education system, because we are immigrant parents, that we're coming from different backgrounds. So me working with the community is, and specifically with the immigrant parents, it doesn't matter they're Latinos, not Latinos, because I'm from Mexico, but my husband is from India. So we are multicultural family. So advocating for the immigrants' parents to inform and teach and giving information about how the US school system works, how we can advocate, also helping them to see me that they can be also part of the PTA. It's not just a position for a US citizen of this country, but also for the immigrants' parents. So slowly and steady, I'm bringing those parents to the table and to be part of the PTA. And I hoping that later on we can see more immigrants parents joining the PTA, not just as a members, but also on the board to be represented. Now that I'm leaving, my son is going to another school. I'm hoping that I can continue this advocacy for all, and also like including information about the regulations and laws, which I am really unaware of that, but I'm learning with them, and that's what I want to share.
Berenice, thank you so much for sharing. Honestly, thank you for breaking barriers, for really showing that immigrant communities are welcome into the PTA. And, you know, sometimes we do have that conception that's built up where it's like, diverse bodies, diverse voices and representation aren't welcome at PTA, but you being here, you saying that I'm a part of this conversation, I'm a part of PTA is a very important way to show that your voice and your representation does matter altogether. And I love the approach that you're taking of how can we streamline people to be on the boards and to take seats at the table for decision making. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we dive into share power as standard 5, but that's spot on exactly where it is. So just thank you so much for continuing the push to empower more diverse families to take part in PTA, especially your local one.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of the job that we've been doing, but also it's terrifying because I'm stepping in on what, like, I don't know the systems. I'm learning with them, but hopefully impacting on the immigrant parents and they can join us and be on the field.
Absolutely. And yeah, let us know how we could be a resource to you too.
Oh, I know. I'm in here every single webinar, learning as much as I can. So I would love to sit with all of you and teach me like every single step so I can be more helpful for my community.
I love that. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Kathleen, you can go ahead and share.
Well, I was in the same chat room, so I just commend them on their work and efforts for diversity because years ago, we had the same kind of thing going on and demographics change often. So around the state here in New Jersey, we have many, many mixed cultures. And I think we need to recognize that everybody needs to feel welcome and included. And I asked the question, how are teachers getting engaged with the PTA? We used to have more of a spirit, I guess, and maybe we need to work at ways to encourage them not to feel untrusted, right? Not to feel that they can't be included and that they will perhaps receive repercussions for speaking out. The teachers need to be, they are an important part of the PTA. And I'd like to see us work on really some tools, maybe a toolkit to encourage them, maybe some incentives that we could give our teachers because they are very important to us.
Thank you for sharing. I love that. And if you think I'm taking note too. So if you ever see me looking down, I promise I'm just writing notes for everything you're saying. But I love how you brought up demographic changes. Everybody is seeing this. Every PTA is seeing this across the nation, in New Jersey, everywhere. So going along with demographic changes and just changes in administration in general, we're constantly seeing changing landscapes when it comes to schools. I think it's important for us as PTA leaders to also step up to the plate and take a critical look at what we have been doing traditionally as PTAs and what are things that we can adjust to so we can include more people and more diverse voices with those demographic changes that we're seeing. So constantly challenge some of the norms that you have going on within your PTA and see how you can create new methods so that it can be even more inclusive of an environment. I also want to say thank you for putting the T in PTA. Some people forget that PTA stands for Parent Teachers Association. So this is why family school partnerships is so important, because we do need to recognize that teachers have very difficult jobs, especially recently. There is a lot going on for teachers right now, and we have to be there for them as well. So I think it's very important to constantly remember that our mission statement includes teachers in that equation as well. And we'll talk a lot about when it comes to family school partnerships, fostering those relationships is very vital, especially as a PTA. Thank you for those comments, Kathleen. Anyone else? We might have time for one more quick share if someone wants to share. It's okay if we don't, we can move right on. Okay, that's all right. That sounds good. Thank you all for sharing again. Glad you all had some good discussions together. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more time to do some discussions. What I'm going to do now, I'll share my screen once again, and we're going to dive into share power. as I said before, I've done sessions where I've done deep dives into all 6 tenets of the standards, but today Share Power is going to be our overall theme, which was identified by Vina and New Jersey PTA as a really great starting spot when it comes to strengthening family school partnerships and also relationships between our communities, our families, and our school administration. So what I want to note is these are what these standards look like. So it's all of these hexagons on the side. Every single one of the standards, whether it's welcome all families or communicate effectively or support student success or share power in this case, I want you to view all the words in those hexagons as your vision. I want you to see share power as the ultimate vision for your PTA and for building those relationships between families and schools. So share power as the vision means that that's something that in an ideal world, you would do 100% correctly all the time. In a vacuum, share power would exist and be able to be the standard for your district overall. But we know that that's not possible when it comes to reality. So always see that as your vision. Within each of the standards as well, and you can find this information on our website too, each standard has 2 goals that are affiliated with it. So those 2 goals, and I'll go over these 2 in particular in a minute, I want you to see these goals as your next steps, things that you could be doing today, tomorrow, in the next week, come your next school year, that can get you in the right direction of share power as the overall vision. So what I want to do is I'm going to read what share power means and what each of these goals mean. You'll see me refer down to a sheet of paper that I have in front of me because we wrote it out pretty well. And then I'm going to go goal by goal, and I want to open up the conversation to everybody here so we could have a little bit of a discussion around what you are doing within your PTA that's related to each of the goals of share power, and also some of the maybe challenges and opportunities that you're seeing in relation to the goals. So we're going to have a conversation around this right now. Before we start, standard 5 is share power. Share power envisions schools partnering with families in decisions that affect children and families, and together as a team inform, influence, and create policies, practices, and programs. So that's your vision. So it's forming those teams that affect children and families, and then also informing, influencing, and creating policies, practices, and programs collaboratively. That's the vision. Our 2 goals are listed on the screen over here. So strengthen the family's voice in shared decision-making, and then build families' connections. So let's start with the first one. So strengthen the family's voice in shared decision-making. This involves making families partners in making decisions that affect their children at school and in the community. So when we're talking about this goal, a good example of this would be to collaborate with your school administrators, for example, to perhaps provide workshops to families and build their capacity and confidence to navigate schools and district bureaucracy. So what Kathleen was talking about and Bernice was talking about as well was inviting new perspectives into the school, or even different community groups into the school itself, and having conversations with administrators about what are the protocols within schools? How are you able to take part in school board meetings? How are you able to take part in budget conversations around your school? How are these different groups able to collaborate with administrators so that they can provide feedback to administration? And also just navigating the school in general. Like telling families who does what within a school district is a very empowering moment, because the moment that a family knows who is who within a district and what they do, they can easily understand, oh, if my child is having X issue within school or is noticing something that I wish to relay to administration, that family is now armed with knowledge and is able to go and find that individual and speak about the issues that they are seeing and provide that incredibly authentic feedback to administration. So it's important to build that type of rapport. So that's one of my examples for that, but I want to open up the floor for a minute, and I'll stop sharing screen because I want to see everybody. What in your practices as PTA leaders have you seen in terms of strengthening the family's voice in shared decision-making? And feel free to use the raise your hand function, or you could put your answer in the chat as well. I'm happy to read that off if you're more of a chat person. But give me some examples. Sarita.
Yes, in my local PTA, especially once kind of 2020 started coming into play, a little bit before then, when we were concerned about safety and things of that nature more. Um, they formed a safety committee, the school did, and they invited parents to be a part of that discussion and at that table on how we all could work together to keep our children safe, not just in the process of going to school, at school, coming home from school. So we looked at it from lots of different angles, and we got to sit at the table as parents to give our own feedback and our own concerns about our children's safety in traveling to and from school, as well as what our concerns would be as we're like maybe sitting home or at work thinking about, especially when you hear things that happen in other schools, what can we do to help keep our children safe? So that started a while ago, and it's still continuing to today, years later, that they still have us at the table and we have those safety meetings.
That is an incredible example. And Sarita, I do want to ask a follow-up to that. So was it the district and the administration that kind of reached out their hand, or were you as a PTA the ones that advocated to be in that space?
It kind of happened all at the same time, where the district started to think, okay, we need to start thinking about safety. And at the same time, the PTA said, we went to the administration and the superintendent and said, hey, this is a concern of our members. They're concerned about safety. They want to know what the school is doing concerning safety and what we as parents can contribute to help make that a better picture.
I love that. I love how it's a two-way street, because we don't always see that sometimes as well. Sometimes we see that administrators are the ones that reach out their hand to a PTA, to other organizations, and they say, hey, we want your opinion like at this table within this committee about some important issue within the district. And school safety is a large issue that we're seeing right now. School safety, internet safety, mental health. There are large conversations that are happening that families and students deserve to be at the table for, to inform, provide feedback, and also help the administration get to a place where they're able to create some good programming and some great policies around those issues in particular. So I love that as an example. I'm really glad, again, that there was kind of that two-way street in terms of outreach, where the district recognized that they had a need for family input, and the PTA was there to provide that family input. Something that we see a lot of the times, and I bet a few of you have come across this at least at one point within you working with different educational facilities and administrators, is that sometimes administrators don't reach out to you and suddenly they have a committee formed about a key issue that you feel like you have a stake in. If that's the case, advocate to be on that committee, advocate to be a seat at that table, attend school board meetings, be somebody that vocalizes that I deserve to be on this committee, or somebody within our PTA deserves to be on this committee. Call out administrators when they don't have diverse representation on these different committee panels and at tables of conversation, because we need to have a robust amount of feedback in order for us to actually create genuinely authentic and fully engaging programming and policies. So I love that. I think that's a really great, great example. Thank you. Anyone else? And we're talking about goal number 1, strengthening the family's voice in shared decision-making. You can put it in the chat. You can raise your hand. There we go. Angel.
Hi. About strengthening the family's voice, like I'm in a district where, you know, the students are, you know, low test scores, you know, low attendance, not coming to school on time. And we have a problem with that. And as a PTA, we don't get to our voices aren't really heard. So a lot of parents are turned off by even joining the PTA. We don't get a lot of notice on like school board meetings, town hall meetings. And by the time we find out about it, it's days late, and we don't get that seat at the table. And I, as a secretary of one of the school's PTA, and I'm a member of another school PTA, I want to know, how do we get the district to inform the parents of what's going on so that we can have a seat at the table and we can advocate for our children, and it could be a better school district.
Thank you for asking that question. And I think that's a very important division that I think we see a lot within many of our PTAs working, especially with administrators. One of my favorite things to do in situations like this, when we have a broad audience, is turn it over. Does anybody have any solutions, something that's worked in your school as PTA leaders? Has anybody come across this where it's districts don't really inform PTAs or families about upcoming events, about school board meetings, important votes? Has anybody come across this? And if you have, any solutions? So Rita.
Hi, we had that problem when we first, years ago, many years ago. We got a new superintendent. We weren't getting any information. We weren't being invited to the table. We started sending representatives to every school board meeting. The first one is what happened was the president scheduled a meeting with the superintendent. And at that meeting, we said, okay, when are the board meetings, the Board of Ed meetings going to be for the year? Got basically the calendar. So we made sure we were present at every Board of Ed meeting. We had a representative there. And we usually sent them with at least 3 questions. So we kind of started to get known that way and expected to be there and expected to have input. Once we started being expected to have input, then they started looking for our input. And then soon we were being invited to the table, and then it became a conversation.
I love that. Yeah, representation is very important. I also just want to mention, and Nancy, I see your hand and I'll call on you in just a sec. Advocacy sometimes isn't as straightforward as we think. Sometimes it's not just showing up to 1 or 2 school board meetings. Sometimes it's showing up to many of them until your face is recognized and you can finally speak up. A lot of the times too, it's relationship building as well, and being able to create some genuine partnerships and relationships with those individuals in order to get to the table to ask that feedback. It's not fair. It shouldn't be acceptable to be that way. I want to make note of that. But sometimes that's the way to get into discussing with administrators and hearing about what those upcoming events, important decision-making meetings and such are happening. Nancy, your hand was raised. Did you want to contribute?
Yeah, I just put, yeah. So I kind of was the same thing with what Sarita said, but what we did in our district was all the PTA presidents or executive boards, we just emailed the superintendent and requested a meeting with him as executive boards, and that then started the council. So we have a council that meets with the superintendent every single month. So we're able to talk to the board and the superintendent to air out our concerns. And it has now been over 15 years now that we have this going in our district, that, you know, they come to us and ask us questions, and then it kind of goes to the Board of Ed, you know, and stuff like that. So you might be able to try that to try to get something going with you guys.
I love that. Thank you for that contribution, Nancy. And I totally agree with you. There are a few other, oh, Lynette, your hand is raised.
Yes, I was going to concur. When I was in one of my school districts, we had zone PTA, which is set up like a council. And every month, the PTAs, all the presidents come together with all administration from that school district every single month, and they collaborate and share information on what's happening and everything from curriculum on down, and that includes the superintendents. And then the PTAs get a chance to share what's going on in the PTAs in every single school. And there's 12 PTAs in this school district.
Thank you for sharing that, Lynette. And also, I love your response in the chat as well about the inviting 3 teachers to each meeting to share what's happening in their classrooms so that parents feel included in the decisions on learning activities. I think that's great because we want to open our doors, right? We want to be inclusive. We want people to feel like they are able to provide that feedback and to be able to do that, they need to know what's actually happening within the schools. And I think that's very important. And then my last thing too is, Angel, I see your question about how do we deal with pushbacks when we're fighting to have a seat at the table, especially when you have administrators that are kind of pushing back against PTAs aren't here to advocate. My one thing that I want to remind everyone for is that PTA is the largest and oldest child advocacy association. That's who we are. We are 126 years strong as an advocacy association. So use that and leverage that as much as you can. If they don't see that PTA as that force, you're a family, you're a part of the community, you are a constituent, you are somebody that is a taxpayer that's a part of the system. So therefore your voice does deserve to be heard. If they don't think it's the PTA, then tell that to a family member, tell that to a member of their community as well and a constituent. I think that's very important. All right, I have one more to share, and I know we're running low on time. So the second goal of Share Power is to build families connections. So we'll go over this a little briefly. So building families connections really means to get families more involved with the different individuals, whether they're administrators or even people within seats of power, key decision makers that are able to influence policy and practice and programs. So one of my favorite things as an example for this goal is to be a liaison. You as a PTA leader are a representative of a community organization. PTAs are community organizations at the end of the day. You're all 501c3s, nonprofit organizations. So act like the leaders that you are. Step up to the plate. There's a reason why you are a PTA leader and you have connections within the school, you have connections within your communities. Leverage those connections and be the person to grab somebody by the hand at the beginning of a school year and say, hi, I am so-and-so from this PTA in New Jersey. Have you met our principal of the school? Have you met our city council member who's here at one of our meetings or one of our events? Just be the person that's able to drive people to other individuals that are key decision makers. Because again, the more faces that you introduce people to, the more that people feel like they can extend themselves out a bit further, advocate successfully, and provide feedback in those seats. So I want to ask, maybe we can get one person. Does anybody have any sort of practices that they use around building families connections? Berenice. Oh, there you go. Hope you're back on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I will set for me is conversations with all parents. It doesn't matter the background. As soon as I see them, I ask them what's their name, what's their kid's name, and I just start to talk to them. And then they will start to share with me the struggles, and then I will try to communicate that with the PTA board. And that's how we build a community. And as in, for example, in our school, we have class parent leaders, is how we call it. And every classroom has one. We have classrooms that have 3 of them. So for me, I'm making sure that the parent that I met at the park, at the post stop, anywhere, is with a class parent leader that knows who's the class parent leader, that parent is in that chat, whatever is in the chat, it's a text, it's an email group, however the leader wants to lead the small group. I make sure that that parent is joining that that group so they can be informed and then start a conversation right there. So it's how we been working on that. I would say the class parent leaders and make sure that every single parent knows who is their parent leader.
I love that. And that goes back to like mentor-mentee models in a way too, where it's like, if someone new is introduced into a system, whether it's a school, whether it's a community, don't you want to be that person that's able to extend a hand? I think that's so important. And that really shows a lot of value for you as a PTA, not only within Share Power, but within Welcome All Families, which is our first national standard. Thank you, Berenice. Angel, I saw your hand was raised. Do you have any contributions to build families connections?
Hi, yes. So what we do is we have events for, families. Like we had a parent social, we had a parent award banquet. we greet the parents at the school. So when the parents are picking up their children after school, we greet the parents. And my husband actually works for a fellows program that helps single fathers. And it was a good way for us to get engaged with fathers and getting them involved as well. And a lot of them joined his program and also joined our PTA. So we have more fathers on our PTA than we do moms. And we give them a lot of support. And that group that my husband is a part of, they absolutely love that group because it helps them with fatherhood. They aren't as in tune as much as the mothers are, and making sure kids get to the dentist, making sure their homework is done, and they really look towards themselves as a good fatherhood community. And we were very proud of that, and that was how we got a lot of parents involved and built a lot of family community with the fathers, and getting some moms in too. So we don't have a lot of members, but the ones that we do have, we really did that after not being active for 3 years.
Oh, that's awesome. And wow, yes, way to build a good connection with a different organization as well. And you're definitely a rarity. I feel like a lot of people are now going to want to talk to you, Angel, about how you're getting male engagement and what they could do to help get some more fathers and male figures within PTA. So that's awesome. I'm totally about that. Build some connections with other organizations that may be a part of different demographic groups that aren't currently represented in your PTA. I think that's very important. And that's how you're able to increase membership and also get more people to help advocate for the things that you would like within your PTA. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on to our final portion, which is just to go over some of the tools and resources that we have available on our website. I'm putting our website in the chat, so www.pta.org/standards. And let me share my screen one more time. We have a ton of resources that are available to each and every one of you. It is free, and I highly recommend that you access them. Please go to the website, search through, and do the same practice like we were doing. Talk with each other on your board about the different goals that you see for each of these standards, and then set this National Standards for Family School Partnership as your big vision for what you could do within your school to strengthen family school partnerships and increase family engagement, which will help with advocacy, which will help with building your membership and building your PTA, because again, this is the bread and butter of PTA. On the website, you'll find a few really great resources. One of my favorites is we have a model school board policy that you can print out and hand to your school board to get them to adopt the National Standards for Family School Partnerships as their policy, as their basis for family engagement. I highly recommend that you do that. That is a big and easy advocacy ask, especially that the policy is already written for you. Our parent survey research is also located there. So if you want to do a deeper dive into the research behind the standards and informing the standards, feel free to do that. And then we have a lot of tips for PTA leaders. We have different toolkits, and one of my favorites is a rubric. It is a large document that has page by page information, standard by standard, goal by goal of what different practices you are doing well and practices that you could be working toward a little bit stronger, and different recommendations for what you could be doing along the way as well. So I recommend printing out that rubric and talking with your boards and looking through and very critically and honestly seeing where you fall on the rubric and how you can improve. It gives specific recommendations and very helpful. The last thing I'm going to do before I hand it over to Vina is we have a brief video that's just going to walk you through the website. It was recorded by my colleague, Rebecca, so please enjoy.
Hello, I'm excited to share with you all that pta.org/standards has to offer. So you'll see at the top, there's this section for getting started. And the first thing I want to share with you is the standards overview. The standards overview shows you for each of the standards, the description, the goals, and the school and PTA indicators. You'll also notice this section, which summarizes the key changes that have been made since the 2008 version. If you want to go a layer deeper, I encourage you to check out the school leader rubric. The school leader rubric really brings to life what each indicator looks like in the school building and in the community. Next, we also have this document to give you a sense of PTA's advocacy work in this area. This includes our asks when it comes to federal action around family school partnerships. And lastly, in this section, we have the State of Family School Partnerships, which is a research study that we've conducted with Edge Research. to share with you the top highlights from the survey that was issued to more than 1,500 parents and caregivers. So going back to the main page, if you scroll down, you'll see some more information about the audiences that might find this tool helpful, an area where you can subscribe to our e-newsletter, a spot to check out our upcoming events and opportunities. And then lastly, here you'll see how you can navigate between all 6 standards. So let's take a closer look at one. So this is standard 3, support student success. And you'll notice again, you see the description, the goals, the indicators, but you also have relevant resources, which we've divided into 3 categories: policy, practice, and research. The resources are in a variety of formats, from videos to podcasts to templates that you can use. Now, going back to the main page, if you keep scrolling, you'll see tools separated out for PTA leaders as well as for schools and districts. So that just about covers it. We hope you find this page helpful. And if you have any questions, please email familyengagement@pta.org.
So one other resource I do want to mention is that we recently concluded our Transforming Family School Partnerships with PTA's National Standards webinar series, where we had conversations with experts, practitioners, researchers in the field about each of those 6 tenets of the standards. All those webinars are also now located on our website, so you can view the webinars and learn a little bit more and engage with some of the conversation that we had around all of the standards. So just like Rebecca said, if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything that you would like to discuss with, my line is always open, and we really want to hear from you in the field about things that are going well, things you may have issues on, and ways that we could highlight you and your PTA in the work around family school partnerships and family engagement. So please use us as a resource, pta.org/standards, and then contact us with any questions, comments, or concerns, familyengagement@pta.org. I really want to thank all of you for your time once again. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you all for engaging in some good discussions. And we're just looking forward to continuing the work, and please continue to be advocates within your community, continue to fight for those spaces within your community to share power and uplift historically marginalized communities within your work. So thank you all again. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll turn it back over to Vina to close us out.
Thank you, Reniel. Thank you for this very engaging webinar on family engagement. I'm sure you've given all of us a lot of tools, and I love all the sharing. All of us have so much to think about and take back to our boards as we plan out the next year during the summer to think on how we can implement all the family engagement into our PTAs and the programs which we develop over the year. Thank you everyone for attending. You'll get the recording as soon as we are done editing with it, so maybe in a week. Thank you so much.